Hello, I would like to thank the organizers for the opportunity to share my views on, how assistive and rehabilitative technologies will evolve to help people with disabilities. And I would like to focus my presentation on neurotechnologies, challenges, and opportunities. I'm Pepe Contreras-Vidal, director of the NSF IUCRC Brain Center at the University of Houston. Some disclosures, my work has been funded by federal agencies, industry, foundations, and the Brain Center. And I would like to start by providing a really quick overview of the state of the art and challenges with neurotechnologies as they exist. And they can be divided into technologies that are the research stage, the clinical stage, or that have been approved or cleared by the FDA. And an example of one of these emerging technologies are exoskeletons, which are class 2 devices with the special controls. And currently, there are about 4 companies that have been cleared to market the exoskeletons. And unfortunately, there are many challenges that remain with these technologies. The first one that comes to my mind is the ability to maintain dynamic balance. So, these devices are prone to falls. And to be really truly independent, this device had to address this very important aspect of locomotion. Unfortunately, these devices cannot grow with the child, so they have been designed mainly for the adult populations, and so this is really a barrier for our children. Basically, this system uses motion sensing to detect tilt as a way to extract intent from the user, but there's a lot more work to do in this case. So intent detection is another challenge in these devices, which leads to the need for shared control, how to combine the autonomous control of the exoskeleton with the brain and the body in real time. And these devices are really not yet fully wearable, and also in terms of the mobility they provide, is yet to be responsive to the needs and desires of the users, which limits the autonomy and independence that these devices can provide to the users. Now, unfortunately, the systems are very costly and they're not widely accessible, so we need to work on that as well. Another example of neurotechnology that has reached the clearance by the FDA as the upper extremity prosthesis, which are controlled by non-implanted electrical components. And an example of that is the DECA arm. And another more recent example is an EEG, brain-computer interface, control of upper extremity exerciser for people with chronic stroke. To my knowledge, this is the first central brain-computer interface, non-invasive, that has been approved by the FDA. And so this is a great step. An example of that is the IPSY hand, which was, again, developed this year. There are also several groups working on brain control of walking exoskeleton. This is something that we focus in my lab. This is the Neurotech, which we have conducted clinical trials in both able-bodied participants and also in people with spinal cord injury, and has shown that the brain can learn to control this device and actually change patterns of brain activity due to training with the brain-machine interface. But this is still at the clinical stage. On the other hand, we have invasive systems, invasive cortical interfaces and stimulation. There have been great examples and demonstrations of brain-machine interfaces that can be used by people with paralysis to control a prosthetic arm for feeding, for example. There are also intercortical interfaces to control functional electrical stimulation. Implantable myoelectric sensors. There's a lot of work being done in spinal stimulation, both invasive and non-invasive methods. Novel cortical interfaces, including ultrasound, optical interfaces, and others, as well as peripheral nerve sensors. This is very promising, but still there are many challenges. This is really highly dependent on the context, so they have to be calibrated literally every day because of different in context. And in fact, we know that the spectrum of needs and capabilities of the patient population, as well as the neural individuality and variance seen in the patterns of brain activity, need to be accounted for as well. Moreover, these are complex system of systems, so we need to make sure that interoperability is not a roadblock here for further development of technology. These devices need to talk to each other. And one way to address that is with the development of standards. And we have different organizations that are working on that. Another important challenge is that the reliability of these systems and the prognostics. So, analysis of failures, we know very little about why these systems fail, from day to day, how long they will last before maintenance needs to be provided, and so on and so forth. These systems normally require extensive screening of the potential prospective end user, for safety reasons, also to make sure that the device can actually help the user. Another factor is that there is a wide range of perception and risk tolerance by the end user. So that means we need to provide options. We need to provide both invasive, non-invasive, peripheral, central technologies, robotics, so that people can feel comfortable and also be able to select what they think will work best for them. Of course, under the guidance of a medical professional. There are still challenges in terms of the reimbursement path and the regulatory path for these devices, although, the FDA is really open and talking to the community. So I think this is evolving. There are as well legal and ethical concerns. There are neuroethics working groups now that are addressing these issues, but we need to do more. And so what's the outlook? So in my mind, I believe that if we work together, this technology will reach the pediatric populations. And this is important not only because there's a current gap on making this technology accessible to children, but also because children are changing in terms of the brain development, the body development, and cognitive development. So this is a great opportunity for really true symbiosis between these technologies and the brain and the body to understand how the brain works, how it evolves, develops, and until it reaches maturation. So this is a great opportunity for neuroscience using these technologies, not only to help people, but to understand reverse engineer the brain. It's also a great opportunity for AI and big data to help understand context and to provide assist in developing algorithms to make possible context-aware intent detection to control these prosthetic and orthotic devices and other type of interfaces in changing environments, so that they can work not only in the lab, but also in the clinic, at home, at work, and be accessible to many. In the future, neurotechnologies will be modular, they will be personalizable, and they will be multifunctional. And they will have integrated functions for diagnostic, for therapy, and for mobility assist as needed control. Of course, this technology need to be safe, they need to be reliable, they need to be ethical and high performing, so that people will adopt the technology, will use them to gain really, truly independence at home, at work, at the clinic, at play. I would like to point out also that there's an emerging symbiosis between brain-machine interfaces, or BMI, and Internet of Things. So I see a world in the future where people with disabilities will be able to use BMIs to communicate and control home appliances, mobility devices, and even other assistive devices like smartphones, tablets, computers, so that there is a more intuitive and natural interaction with the surrounding environment. And I believe this very important work that can only be accomplished if we work together, in large team science, convergent, transdisciplinary research team that include end users, but also experts from the humanities, including the ethics, design, arts, and other areas. It's also very important to really develop mechanisms and will to achieve data and tool sharing. These technologies are very expensive and require highly skilled personnel. And not everybody has access to this technology to test bed. So it's very important that we share. We do our part on sharing and training the workforce, students, to be able to use, develop, maintain, and prescribe the technologies. I think it's a very important role for industry here. So I believe that industry, university, cooperation is really critical to advance the field. And this is one of the missions of the Brain Center in terms of promoting and fostering this communication with industry so that we can do things together faster and better and take them to the end user. And of course, it's very important that mechanism for funding high risk, high impact, highly innovative research that consists of large team science. And this is not easy. There are a few mechanisms, but we need to also consider international collaboration here. So we need international mechanisms to foster and promote research collaboration so that we can develop the neurotechnologies of the future. Thank you very much for your attention.